Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. My name is Marv Fox Jr., and this is Become the Podcast. How do you become anything you dream, you declare, and you commit? And success is your next breath. We are listening to the sounds of none other than the Black Pool of Genius, Stevie Wonder, songs from the Key of Life. This is As. I wanted to add some music, to add some texture to the podcast. The app that I currently use will not allow me to use the music that is on my iPad. So I got to figure that out. I'm pretty sure there's some licensing restrictions. And so at some point, hopefully I'll figure out how to add music and be more creative with the production of the whole thing. But I just got my phone playing and we're going to listen to Stevie Wonder while I talk. And hopefully it sounds good. If it doesn't, we'll make some adjustments. If it does, great. But we'll mumble and stumble and stutter our way to success. So here we go. Third podcast, I wanted to talk about intention or living life with intention. And so another way that we can talk about intention or living life with intention is, how do you think about what you're doing? Because how you think about what you're doing will show up in your work. How you think about what you're doing will show up in your work. And I'm going to give you this example. So my son turned 10. He turned 10 November 1st. And so he was always a little apprehensive about talking to me. He would always talk to Sarah, my wife, but he would always start a conversation, then get really, really anxious and start stuttering. And it would just always, like, talking to me would overwhelm him, right? And so he would avoid conversation at time, but as a son and wanting to talk to his father and talk about basketball or comic books or whatever, he would always try, and sometimes it would go well, but oftentimes it wouldn't. And he always thought that he was annoying me. Now, which is crazy is I was allowing him to annoy me. And I was intentional about showing him that he was annoying me through my body language. I was intentional about it. And so I came across this concept of being intentional and making sure that whatever I'm doing, I'm thinking about it in a certain way. I want to think about things in a certain way and be very deliberate, because I know that it's going to have an impact on how people respond to me, right? So our intentions are mirrored by the universe and the people in the universe. So if you always think the world is showing you love, right? We all hit challenges and whatnot, right? But if you think that the world is always showing you love, it's because how you show up in life and how you think about life, the highs and lows, the things you love and don't love about life, because of how you show up and how you think about those things, people reflect that energy. It's the law of correspondence, right? The world is nothing more than a reflection of everything you got going on the inside. So when I allow myself to be annoyed, or I'm intentional about looking at my son in his conversation as something that's annoying, he's going to reflect that in a lot of different ways. And one of the ways he would reflect that is he would get anxious. He would get nervous to talk to me. My own son is nervous to talk to me, right? So I learned this concept, and I started making sure that every time my son talked to me, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So he would come up to me now. So I give you a recent story. He comes up to me. He reads it. My son, he reads a ton. He reads a ton about basketball. He watches basketball on the internet. He's always Googling and YouTubing clips. We watch a ton of basketball together. He goes to games. We train together. And so he says, "Pop, who was more intense? What era was more intense, the 60s or the 90s in basketball?" And so I look at him. Now, mind you, my intentions are to be excited about my son's conversation. So although I still think his question was kind of crazy, I was still happy that he was talking to me, right? So he wasn't nervous. He just wanted to hear a response. So I said, "Marv, you need some more. You need to give me more of a vacuum. I need like the 60s and the 90s. In what way?" So he goes back, and then he comes back and he says something else. And what he says gave me no more reference. You know what I'm saying? It was even more, what he said the second time was more silly than what he said the first time. But our interaction with one another ended up in a laugh because he knows that I'm being intentional about enjoying our dialogue and enjoying our conversation, so much so that even when they're silly and sometimes pointless and his thoughts are incomplete, there's still a love and appreciation for the moment. There's a love and appreciation for the bond and the connection. And so because of that, he's always talking to me. He always wants to have a conversation with me, more so than my wife. Like before, he choose Sarah with me any day of the week. But now, if it ain't 50-50, you know what I'm saying? I know I'm getting a lot more love from him because my intention is to love him more and to be more excited about when we talk. And so I'll ask you, how does intention affect these other areas in your life? So how does intention affect leadership? If the leader hates the group that he's working with or she's working with, if the leader isn't intentional about developing, or how about this? If the leader doesn't enjoy and doesn't wake up excited to teach, to train, to develop, to lead his group, that's going to show in the flock. The people who have been led, they're gonna see that this leader doesn't care about leading me. Or maybe, I can tell you really love leading this person, but you don't like leading all of us. You want to lead this person over here because maybe they look like you, they from the same area as you, the same state as you, they grew up the same way, but you're not concerned about my growth and my development. You know what I'm saying? And so again, even if you are a leader and you're doing your work and you're more so you're just checking the list off versus being intentional about making sure that I show up in a certain way. I want people to know that I care about my job. I care about this work. People are going to feel whether you care or don't care, right? How does intention show up in your relationships? I just told you a conversation about my son and our relationship, but here's another story about relationships. I'm watching a movie with Sarah. We're watching 50 Shades of Grey. 50 Shades of Grey. It's a bad movie. I heard the book collection is awesome, but the movies are terrible. But there's one scene where this guy says to the girl, "I want to spend the rest of my life with you," right? And I laugh out loud, like legitimate laugh, not like a sarcastic laugh that I manufacture, but like an organic laugh, right? Sarah looks at me and she says, "What's so funny?" And I said, "That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. I want to spend the rest of my life with you." I said, the reality is, the reality is I want to spend I want to spend like 70% of the rest of my life with you. The other 30% I want to save for friends. I want to save for myself, right? No one wants to be around somebody for the rest of their life, like every second of the day. That's unrealistic. And I said, to even get to 70%, that takes effort. It's foolish to think that you're going to be in a relationship and want to be with somebody forever and ever and ever and ever, for every second or forever and ever. It takes effort to want to be with somebody. So the advice that I give some of my young guys, like, yo, if you're dealing with your significant other, whoever that is, it's the same song every day. It's the same lyrics every day, right? The lyrics not going to change. The person is who they are, right? They're going to go through the changes, but I have to make sure that I remix this person in my head so that I give myself a chance to fall in love with the song over and over and over again, which is the person. So what I'm saying is, I have to make sure that this person in my head is always fresh and brand new. So I'm constantly changing the melody. I'm constantly finding something else to love. I'm constantly finding something else to admire so that love can refresh itself or be freshened up or be spruced up or be vibrant or be current for the long haul. Because the person, we in this thing forever, you know what I'm saying? The lyrics are the same. But if I can continue to be intentional about how I view this person in my mind, and I want to always view this person in the highest light, in the brightest light, that's going to have an impact on everything I do for that person. So I might not be doing anything extra. I might not be going to get flowers. I might not be, doing finding romantic ways to reinvent our, love life, whatever the case may be. But I could just be doing something simple. I could just be, filling up the gas tank. I could be taking out the garbage containers from the garage to the sidewalk. But because of how much you love that person, how intentional you are about showing love for that person, it's going to show up in the smallest things you do. And so again, when you're intentional, when you're in relationships, how you view the person that you're in a relationship with is going to have an impact. So whether we're going through the storm or not, I'm always going to view that person in the highest, most brightest, most vibrant light. And because of that, even when we're going through the storm, that person is going to feel a certain connection to you, because they're going to feel like, I know we both going through it, but I can tell you working through whatever we going through. So I'm gonna ride or die with you. So this hard time is only going to last for a short while, and then we're going to get right back to the action, right? How does being intentional show up in your spiritual conditioning? We talked about it before in the last podcast. What feelings are you putting into your spirit? Be intentional about it. Don't allow doubt and failure, doubt and being afraid. Don't put those into your spirit. Don't even allow them to enter into your spirit. You have to be intentional, protect your spirit, and make sure that everything you put into your spirit is redeeming, confident, breakthrough. You got to be intentional about what you put into your spirit, because your spirit is going to have an impact on your mental and your physical effort. The last thing is just your overall activity. Whatever you're doing, some of us have jobs that we love, but some of us have jobs that we hate. But the difference between the people that I'm constantly moving along, like the people that are standing side by side, I hate my job and so do you, right? But the person that moves up in that situation is the person that says, I don't like doing what I'm doing, right? It's not my most ideal job, but it's a job and I got a job to do. So I'm going to do this job as well as I can. And I'm going to make sure that shows up in my productivity. And that's the person that gets the nod and can move on and do something different and gets more responsibility or gets the bonus. Sometimes when we hear talk, people say, man, I hate my job. But one person continues to excel. Yeah, you may hate your job. You may not like it. And you may say that, but that other person who hates their job may still work their butt off and work to produce the best customer service, wants to be the most productive, wants to be on time, wants to stay late and get the job done, even though they hate the job. Because although they may not want to do this job long term, it might not be the highlight of their day, they still understand that I still have a greater purpose in doing what I'm doing. And because of that, because of how I feel about my job, how I view it, I'm still going to go hard, even though I'm having this conversation with you that says I don't like my job. So, man, we have to think about, we always have to ask ourselves, how do you want to show up in your life? How do you want to show up in your life? How do you want to show up in the way you dress? How do you want to show up in the way you're as a friend? How do you want to show up as a leader, as a husband, as a wife, as a child, as a brother, as a sister? All these different identities we have. How do you want to show up? And then once how do we answer that question? By being intentional about saying, I want to show up as a professional in this way. I want to show up as a husband in this way. I want to show up as a wife in this way. I want to show up as a Christian. I want to show up as a Muslim. I want to show up as an advocate for the queer community in this way, and be intentional about it. And you'll notice that the world and the people in the universe and the people within the universe will mirror your intention. And even if you're not the greatest at what you're doing and you're flawed, they will see your intention. They will feel your intention, and those are and they will continue to push you forward and pull you forward because they realize, man, you know what? I understand this person is coming from a place of goodness, and their intentions are good. So that's it, man. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back at it ASAP, but y'all take care. Marv Fikes Jr. Done.